the main event is now. It's time for the main event. Basically, we are going to have an intense panel discussion on building trust in apps and talk about the recent scenarios regarding data privacy and information security. So why don't I take this moment to introduce all of our panelists first. Um, To begin with, I would like to introduce Venkat Raju. He is an innovation ecosystem enabler and the advisor at the At Company. He has been a chief data manager in the past, and he has worked with enterprises dealing with privacy and has been an integral part of the entire shifting of the perspective towards data security and privacy. He has been involved in building customer experiences without actually managing data, and has been an integral part in the blockchain scene in the EU, and has, of course, tackled a lot of privacy issues in the past. Let's have him on the screen. Venkat, welcome to the panel.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Glad to
How are
be
you
here.
doing today?
Very good.
It
Thank
is
you.
such a pleasure to have you here with us today. I hope I have given you a proper introduction, the one that you deserve.
No worries. I'm
Wonderful.
here as advisor to the ad company and a big believer in the Flutter community. So thank you.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Moving on, we have Jagannadh. He is also the lead architect at the ad company. He has been involved in and he has been architecting systems that are complying with the GDPR, CDPR, and all the data information security acts and norms for more than 10 years now. He is the man behind the technicalities of the ad protocol that is dedicated to solving the problem of privacy on the internet today. He has been a CTO for 3 years at Shrees Infotech India, and has worked with a lot of sensitive data by working on projects involving financial products. He's worked on telecommunication projects with Oracle. Uh, Jagan, welcome to the panel.
Hey, thank you.
It is such a pleasure to have you here, and I hope that we can have an amazing discussion today with you.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Great. So moving on, we also have Sarika Gautam. She is an engineering manager at Geeky Ants, and she has been one of the oldest members of the Geeky Ants family. She has been driving technology here at Geeky Ants from the front lines. But the the essential and the interesting fact about her is that she likes to describe herself as a very private person and has an absolute minimum social media footprint. So do not ask us how we got in touch with her. Uh, and she believes that it is very important for developers to be ethical when they are developing projects and products for the communities, because the current state of the internet gives everybody a lot of power, and all of this power in the wrong hands can cause a lot of trouble. Sarika, welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Souvik Biswas. So Souvik is a third-year engineering student and is very deeply involved in information security and data privacy. Well, the interesting fact is that he got introduced to all of this while uh, exploring and thinking about how sensitive data like health records, etc., are managed. And to become a part of this entire space, he has worked on an app that sends messages in Morse code, in a way to prevent people from accessing that data that is crucial to people. He has also, with his friends, developed a blockchain-based protocol, which, according to him, cannot be broken by any quantum computer. He is also a technical writer at Code Magic Block. Souvik, welcome to
Hi,
the panel.
hi, great to be here.
How are you? How are you doing today?
Yeah, good.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the panel for today, and we are going to be, of course, talking about trust and privacy in apps. Just to give you a small background, information security and privacy on the internet has become a huge issue today. And of course, owing to the recent debacle that has been going on regarding these major players in the industry and how they have been misusing our data or have been claimed to be misusing our data for business benefits and other unethical processes. We collectively thought that it is very important to address this issue and draw some perspective towards it. So I think we can probably begin this discussion by defining what information privacy basically is. So Venkat, I would love to start with you. How would you define information privacy? What is it for you?
Thank you. So we all understand the term privacy, but when it comes to leveraging the internet, experiencing online experiences, I think privacy has different connotations. And for me, privacy is, look, this is my data, my privacy, and nobody else is going to be exploiting and using it. And how can I take advantage of the internet, connect, share, have fun, have great experiences while not allowing anyone to intrude into what is totally private for me. And that's very, very important. And organizations, public policy boards, governments have all tried to define what is privacy here. So for example, EU went and put together a massive paper in terms of, and politicians were thundering saying, all these social media companies are abusing our privacy and trust and enriching themselves, and we shall not allow them to do that. And consumers and users should take back control. And my question is, the average consumer or the user is not capable. Forget the average, even the sophisticated people do not have the technology wherewithal to protect ourselves. So fundamentally, this has to be rethought, reimagined. It is like trying to put some controls, compliance requirements on things, and the horse has already left the barn. I think we have to reimagine what is privacy and put the adequate safeguards around that while enabling people to continue to benefit from online experiences. For me, that is privacy.
That is an interesting perspective. Sarika, what do you think? What do you think information privacy is for you, and how would you perceive it?
Yeah. So for me, as a private person, everything about me is private to me. I usually don't share it with anybody. So even as a developer, what I have observed is, say, even in the database, people, at least at the developer level, or the people who are maintaining those databases have access to it. So that is the point. It is not exactly private, right? It is going into the hands of people who are strangers to me. So how can I be sure that my data is absolutely private?
Right, right. Jagan, I believe that you have worked, hands-on with a lot of data, and I mean, you sure have an idea about how privacy is perceived from the eyes of an organization or an industry. But what about you personally? How do you perceive information privacy in data?
Yeah. So to me, data privacy is somebody not using your personal data in a inappropriate way, in a way that you don't expect it to be used, right? For example, assume that you go to somebody for a blood test and they do generate a report for you, and it just happens that you happen to be one of those rare blood groups. And you know that your blood reports are actually sold to the people for research purposes. And I don't know how many of you actually know that when you go for a blood test, and of course they give you a copy of your report, but a report can also be sent to someone else for their study and research purposes. You wouldn't have even expected that something like that is happening. You have not paid them to do that. Assume that the researcher happens to make hell lot of money. There are two aspects to the privacy. Maybe, I mean, at company, what we are thriving for is the people monetize data in a way that you are unaware of, and you are supposed to get a fair share of your data. in the example that I have given, if my blood report happens to be one of such an important thing and it's useful to somebody and somebody making, let's say, crores out of it, and it is, you are the reason that somebody actually making that kind of money, and you should get a fair share of it. So I mean, coming to the how to monetize, that's a different topic, but the whole privacy is, you don't want your data to be used in an inappropriate way. And where we are going is more permission based internet. Imagine the same situation that I just spoken of, and you can probably permission somebody to make use of your data. You tell the lab that I'm fine for you to share it, but based on these conditions. That's one aspect of it. The other kind of privacy is, for example, somebody rents you a home, and they're saying that it's all free. Imagine that Facebook, we all signed up for Facebook knowing that it's free. Now somebody is renting their home for free, there has to be some catch somewhere. I mean, there are no free base anywhere. So all these guys saying that, okay, I'm renting you my home for free, but you have to take the electricity board that I say, you have to make sure that you have to purchase groceries from the supermarket that I say, and all that. I mean, they'll dictate the terms. So I mean, privacy is, to me, you have to make sure that the data that you are giving away data, and it's not being used the way you want it to be. And then I mean, we shout at people for using inappropriately, but we should also be careful on what we are signing up for when you join a platform.
Right, right. So, Savik, you are still a student. You're in your
Yeah.
late teens, and of course, with people in the late teens, and being social is a very important part of life. So, I'm interested to know what your perspective towards data information security and privacy is. So, I'd like to know, how do you perceive it?
Yeah, so for me, data privacy is something like we hear in modern days a lot of time. So it's mostly heard from the regulators that are owning big firms. So this is to do with our digital footprint that we have in numerous forms, starting from social media, as you said, and like in the form of Aadhaar cards and PAN cards, like we have to take into account all those because all those have a digital footprint of them, and any kind of like serious data breach would like seriously impact our life because like all the important information that are very private to us are all like have a digital footprint at least. So for me, privacy is something like the people should have control over their data at least. Like with the emerging big firms, we are sharing a lot of information with them, and with I think that that is leading to like losing our control over the information that we own. Yeah.
Right, right.
So, Digvijay, if I may
Yeah,
add, so a
absolutely.
lot of the conversation on privacy is about from a regulatory standpoint. Thou shall protect user data like this, or you'll be penalized, or you are not supposed to utilize the data this way. When I talk about reimagining privacy, that means the data does not leave the user or the consumer. In fact, can you continue to transact and have those wonderful online experiences without even having to share your data? You control your data. You don't only allow a glimpse of what is required for what purpose and for what length of time. So the notion of data protection, the notion of controlling how can you utilize this data for what purpose should go away. It should, the control should completely revert back to the consumer and the user, if you will. So that's what I meant by rethinking, reimagining the entire notion around data and privacy.
Right, because one thing that I see, which is common through, I think, everybody's perspective, between everybody's perspective for data information and privacy, is just like in real life, as humans evolved, we built houses, we built rooms in our houses to have, a sense of privacy, a sense of, well, of course, privacy per se, right? To be able to have our own things to ourselves without anybody else's knowledge, which comes across as a basic right of every human. But if that is the case, why has privacy become such an issue and why is it so hard these days? I mean, shouldn't it be just table stakes? I want to put this question to all the panelists, whoever wants to go first.
Absolutely. When the internet protocol was conceived, if people had thought about this, actually, they would have built trust in the underlying protocol, which was not. And whatever it was built for, it has evolved. And now we are all using the internet. But at the foundational level, trust has not been built, which is why one of the reasons the AT company has come up with this AT protocol, where trust is built into the foundational layer. Privacy is built in, and that is how it should be done. And that omission at the start, when we created the internet, we are reaping the effects of this as the internet has evolved and have consumed all our lives right now.
Yeah, I would like to just add something. So, you know that when HTTP was actually invented by Mr. Tim Berners-Lee, uh, the only thing that he envisioned is that the universities and probably students would exchange some data over it. I mean, it's not supposed to be. It was not envisioned to be something where the commerce happens, where you have your e-commerce websites trying to sell stuff. I mean, it was not designed to be something like that. So after some time, it became a standard on the internet, and everybody started developing products on that. And it's not designed to be used in certain ways. And now, uh, as you know, there are a lot of inventors who kind of feel bad after some time that their invention were did not go in the right hands. Like, the one who invented hydrogen bomb, or there are many inventors who felt that their inventions actually did not take the right shape. And even Mr. Tim Berners-Lee is involved in actually trying to say that internet shouldn't have been like this. And we at company actually kind of see that, for example, if you want to do a commerce on internet, this is not the right platform. It has to be done in a different way. That's where we come into picture. So whole ed protocol is trying to create that new way of sharing data, new way of persisting data in a way that it's normally done on HTTP.
Right, Souvik, what do you think about this? Why has privacy become such a hard thing to do?
Yes, so like the term privacy, like it differs from person to person. Like, for example, there can be someone who is quite active on social media and does a lot of posts and share a lot of images about his personal life. But on the other hand, there can be someone like who doesn't want to share his personal experiences with everyone else on the internet. And I think it is quite significant to take into account. Like, what I think the ad protocol is, it gives a flexibility to the people to control over their data so that they can share only the things they want to share and keep the things that are private to themselves, not even share on external databases. So it doesn't like get compromised in data breaches or anything like that.
Right, right. Sarika, thoughts?
I think initially it might have originated because of mass service providers, like maybe like people know people provide something and they assume that all consumers need the same thing, and then the commercialization of it and things like that might have contributed to it.
Right, right. Jagan, I am led to believe that you very strongly believe in the fact that the existing systems cannot really protect our data. Would you
Yeah.
like to elaborate on that?
Oh, yeah. Data protection and data safety are two different things. I mean, for everybody who is listening, actually, we talking about, like, I mean, we always look at data in the context of social media, where you have a picture of yours. Probably you don't want to be seen by people that you thought went in the wrong hands. That's only a small aspect of data protection. I mean, imagine that you are trying to architect a banking system. So here there is no social data, right? It is still difficult to protect the data. There's no one like sharing data with yourself. You're just logging into your own account, probably checking your balances and trying to transfer. This is no social app, right? But the data protection is a huge deal actually. So you hear about people stealing credit cards from shopping websites, and shopping websites are no social apps, so they still lead to data breaches and stuff like that. So inherently, I'll just give you a very simple example why it is difficult to design systems like that. Every Imagine that you log into your banking website and trying to transfer money to, let's say somebody, let's say me trying to transfer money to Venkat. Imagine that it takes like 15 seconds. Your screen has that infinite scroll, I mean the thing that's going around. You would be really jittery, and you would think that okay, it might be deducted from my account, but it's not credited to Venkat. Now I have to deal with the bank customer service, call these people, what a hassle. So if you have to design systems that are super fast, then it has to be architected differently. The encryption and all this stuff that protects the data actually comes at a cost. So there are, you would have heard about SLAs, right? So if my transaction has to happen in 2 seconds, I cannot put one hell of an encryption there, because that's going to slow down things. So you are always stuck in this balance between protecting data versus meeting SLAs. So bank would say that if I'm the architect, they say that I want the transaction to happen in anything like 2 seconds, otherwise you're gone. So you kind of get into those kind of challenges. So architecturally, it offers so many challenges. And if you are actually picking a database for your data store, take any popular database, right? Oracle or any of the popular databases. So you encryption is like not out of the box. I don't know if any of you heard about like homomorphic algorithms. So idea is, if you encrypt something, you can't search it, right? Let's say you want to search all the statements by name Venkat. You have all your bank statement, and you want to search all those transactions that you have made to Venkat. If you want to search something, it has to be searchable, free text. But if you encrypt something, it will not become searchable. So people are coming with this whole class of algorithms called homomorphic algorithms, which are both encrypted and searchable. So you're always stuck in this dilemma of, making it fast but use complex. You see what I'm saying? So these are the kind of dilemmas as an architect that you get into when you architect systems.
If I may add to what Jagan just mentioned, having been involved with blockchain communities, dealing with data commons efforts and self-sovereign identity, I think blockchain as a technology is certainly capable of addressing the needs on privacy, protection. The challenge has been the immense overhead the blockchain protocols bring in. And when you try to scale it up, the whole thing falls apart, which is one of the reasons that attracted me towards the ad company, because here is a pretty elegant solution, which is certainly addressing all the needs that we talk or expect from a privacy standpoint, while also empowering the customers, and it is positioned to scale effortlessly, seamlessly, very well. And so all those folks in blockchain trying to solve this particular problem, I would encourage take a look at the ad protocol and the ad community.
Right. I think it would be rather interesting to see what that can do and how that can help us. But again, getting to how the ad company gives you, or the ad protocol gives you, immense control over your data. I think we need to address an underlying question that exists beneath this, is which, Sarika, I would love to have your thoughts on this, since you, of course, introduced yourself as a very, very private person. Um, what do you consider private data, and what kind of data are you okay with sharing on the internet with everybody?
It's very subjective, I would say. Like something
Uh-huh.
like I wouldn't want to share with my professional connection something which is very private to me, which I might like to share with my family, right?
Right, right. So I think, I mean, of course, I would love to know from Souvik and the rest of the panel as well, what kind of data do you think is okay in your perspective to be shared on the internet, and what kind of data do you consider private that, uh, I mean, has become mandatory to share on the internet if you have to use certain services?
I think it's extremely contextual and depending on who I want to share with. What I would like to share with my friends is very different what I share with my professionals at work or a potential service provider in the context of a particular transaction. And it's not just the information I want to share, but for how long and can I take it back? I think I would want to see the flexibility in terms of how much I'm sharing with who, for what purpose, for how long. And I want that kind of flexibility.
Right, right. Because I mean, as a small example, since we are talking about building trust in apps, let's say if we are going to use a banking application for a certain bank to make online transactions, of course, a certain ease of access is provided by accessing your probably giving an option to send money or send some information to all the contacts that you have in your phone already. But that would essentially mean that you would give that app and the organization running that app access to your contacts on your local device.
Not necessarily. And that's what I'm saying. We have come away from traditional way of how we've been doing into reimagine how it could be. So we have actually demonstrated the ability to say I can send to at Jagan without having to know any information about Jagan's details on his bank accounts, etc. And my whole point and my request to the community is we are all like intelligent folks out there, and let's reimagine and work with banks and other people saying, look, uh, just because some things have been done one particular way for ease of use, convenience, etc., does not necessarily mean we have to continue that way. And here's what I'm saying: like, you can have privacy at the same time have great experiences. Have the cake and eat it too, and really seriously request people to look at the ad company and the ad protocol. I'll tell you my reasons as to why I chose to be part of this company, because user centricity is built in the business model of the company. Empowering the average user consumer to take back control. That means keep their data in their own phone, for example, called in a secondary server, and they choose to reveal as little information as needed based on context. And second one, to the entire Flutter community and the developer community, I happen to know the founders, for example, and these are serial successful entrepreneurs, corporate executives, etc. But they are developers at heart, and they continue to code to this day. And the entire technology has been open sourced. And for the Flutter community as a whole, the backend technology has been built on Dart, and they do understand, appreciate the value of what Flutter could do. And I can't say enough about, like, my request is come on board, take a look what the ad company has to offer. And unlike other systems, here you get incentives as well for building applications and promoting it, where you do not have to worry about the privacy aspects. You simply write the business logic and voila, it goes. And you can be assured that privacy and trust is already built into the applications.
Right, right. I think that would probably, I mean, I think in fact we should all have a look at what that is all about and see, because I was reading about that, and it's I did come across the fact that it's highly contextual, uh, and you decide what you need to do,
Right,
who you
because
share your
you did
data.
ask the question, what is private and what is public? What can I share? No, my point is, what is public in one context could be private in a different context, and you need
Correct.
to have that kind of.
Control over your data.
That's correct.
Right, right. Souvik, you have had interesting perspective on things. Uh, do you know what kind of data is out there about you? And I mean, are you aware of any options that might tell you what kind of data there is about you?
Okay, so I totally agree with Venkat. Like, that is what I wanted to say also. Like, the data that is in context with some people, it can be private, but the same data can be private to some, it with respect to another context. Like, that is the control we need over the data. That is what I think the ad protocol is giving us. Like, they are having control, like the data that we want to share with only a single person, like only that data is getting shared, not even like any information about the data related to that. So I think that's an amazing thing to have. Like the
Mhm.
all the things that the current protocols that we have, they like share information, like they have a like kind of storage of all the data, and they have access to all the data that is related to that. And ad protocol is totally like sharing only the single data, not having access to any other data related to it.
Right, right. So I want to direct this conversation to more towards an industry perspective now. Jagan, I would like to start with you regarding that. Um, so considering that in the previous year we've seen so many different data breaches, and so many different big names of the industry have come under scrutiny for utilizing or misusing data that they have been collecting about their users, and also about data server breaches, and so many things have happened. uh, what do you think we need to consider going forward as an industry, uh, to well, if not immediately change the entire scenario of data security, but at least to take steps towards this end goal? So what do you think, what should the industry look at?
Yeah. So again, architecturally, actually, so when you have to imagine a system where each piece of data that belongs to you is kind of encrypted using your encryption keys. I mean, everybody must be aware of RSA encryption and all that stuff. Yeah. So what I'm saying is systems do encrypt the data actually, but you have one lock to the entire home. So anybody breaks it, then you're gone. But imagine the same situation. We have a huge home, but each room that belongs to you is protected by your own lock. So the whatever the huge building that you are living in can have many apartments. So the each apartment is analogous to a piece of data that you own, and you see that you protect your home with your keys. So now when you architect any system, all the data actually dumped into one place. It's not encrypted per user basis. That's where the world is going. That's where the world has to go, so that only you control the data. So imagine a bank statement coming in a form that bank cannot read, right? A bank cannot read your statement. When they actually take the statement out, unless you put your lock and turn it, you cannot see it. Actually, they do send password protected bank statements now, but someone
Right,
else
yeah.
can read it. Let's say you can, even if I share, let's say, my bank statement with you, you cannot actually read it because it's protected by my keys. Unless I put my key, it cannot be opened. So that's the world it has to be, so that it's related to multi-tenant databases that support uh, this kind of encryption that I'm talking about. But at company and at protocol, I'm sure Souvik was talking about when he speaks at it, when he says that your data is protected the way you want it, and your data can be shared the way you want it to be. This is exactly the underlying thing: is we protect data. We put the stuff, if we have to put stuff in your home, you have to give access to your home. We need your key. So each user's data is protected by their own keys. And if we are sharing with somebody else, let's say I want to say hi to Souvik. What when talk about sharing the data, let's say I want to ping Souvik, say hi to him. Now that this hi is destined to Souvik, and I don't want, let's say, anyone else to read it, I would protect that data using Souvik's keys, so that only Souvik in the world can open it and see it. It's it's that's the core architectural principle behind this ED protocol, and that's the way even world should move. We have about 16 patents pending on the simple concept that I talked about. A few other things, but uh, it's very well protected thing.
So let me give a industry perspective. Having been a data practitioner in a senior role at a major bank in New York, um, there is this misconception that large corporates and enterprises actually want to capture the customer data for all kinds of purposes. Yes, it is true. Some a few companies have abused that trust, etc. Most of the time, trust me, these large corporations want that to provide a better customer experience and possibly upsell, cross-sell some of their other products and not really pass it on to some third party to monetize that data. That's not what they want to do. And increasingly with GDPR, CCPA, etc., the compliance needs and the protection needs, the costs are escalating and it is just out of control. If, for example, they get an opportunity where they don't need to save customers' data, while at the same time understand enough about the customers to provide a rich experience, trust me, they will go for it. Today, there is no real technology or the opportunity, and which is one of the things certain thought leaders in industries like banking are working with the ad company to come up with, shall we say, the new mode of doing it, where customers continue to keep their own data. They share only bits of that information required for processing, etc. But I do not have to save store it nor protect it myself, and thus dealing with all the regulators and so on. In fact, a lot of companies are thinking, and thought leaders in various sectors are looking the whole thing very, very differently.
Right, because when we talk about this, I think what you're trying to say, Venkat, is that all of these things were never built or
Correct.
perceived with ill intentions,
Right. So the
right?
continued focus on how to protect it, how to comply is the wrong question. Can we continue to do it without me having to store customer data is the question. If you pose the question that way, then hopefully we'll find the right solutions where everyone's happy.
Right, that actually makes a lot of sense because when we talk about these things, I think there's one name that does come to mind, Facebook, really, and all the scrutiny that it has come under in the
Right.
recent times, and also with the recent privacy policies that they changed on WhatsApp, which brought about so much scrutiny onto them.
Mhm.
'Cause I personally came across this one newspaper ad in the Times of India, which is a leading newspaper in India here, and the front page, the entire front page was covered with just the words "WhatsApp does not misuse your private data." So, so the kind of scrutiny has driven
Right.
companies, these big names, to resort to making public announcements like these, which I think should be considered as a red flag, because I mean, of course, it was not ill. I mean, it was not made for ill with ill intentions, but now such it has taken such a direction. Uh,
Mhm.
so I have a question in my head which might create some sort of controversy, but I think it's worth putting out there. So I'm just going to ask all of you that anyway. Considering all of this, do you think an isolationist framework is better for data privacy? And when I say an isolationist framework, I mean like the Chinese government not letting these big companies, use their services within their borders. Do you think that is better for data privacy on the whole?
You want me to go?
Anyone can go.
Okay. My philosophy is I do believe in open systems. I do not like walled gardens, whether done by corporations or countries, and isolationism by some definition or however the way you frame it is closed. Closed does not uh, generate innovation and good experiences, much less the other issues. I do believe in truly open systems with adequate safeguards and privacy built in, where the users and the participants participate in such an open community and framework uh, while remaining in control. And that's the key word. If the control is distributed to the people and the participants, open systems tend to flourish and much better. That's my position.
Right. Anybody
Yeah,
else that would like to add to this?
yeah, sure. I will actually. So more than that, that will not address any of the data privacy and data protection or any of the issues that we are talking about. uh, the isolation policy wouldn't help really. Even if, let's say, I don't use a Chinese app, it doesn't mean that Indian app would treat me fairly. See what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. Right.
so
Yep. Yep.
I you see what I mean. You actually nowadays you see that when you go and buy something, you are always asked for a phone number to give a discount, right? So why do you need that? How do the systems make use of your phone number? I mean, these are all like interesting questions. So actually, one to everybody out there, to Venkat made a very interesting point that it's not about uh, I mean, when user has his data in his control, ability to for him to fully control it and give away the information that he want to is the key point here. I'll just throw an example. Assume that you shop in 3 e-commerce websites. How would you like to tell all 3 guys that blue is your favorite color, so that as soon as you enter their e-commerce website, they not only show the right merchandise, but probably the customize entire theme that suits you, right? They are not controlled by a single corporation. It could be Amazon, Flipkart, maybe something else. But as soon as you enter there, okay, Digvijay likes black and blue. How can you tell them so that they customize that, right? All you tell them is user IDs and passwords. That's what you create. But even if, let's say, imagine that they collect that information from you, you have to do it thrice on 3 different websites. If you are shopping on 10 websites, you have to do it 10 times. And let's say if people nowadays love dark themes, what if everywhere that you go, they want to give you a dark theme? How can you tell them that? So to Venkat's point, with Ed protocol, you control your data, and if you are willing to say to all these people out there that dark is you like dark themed websites or products, and blue is your favorite color, you can say so that everybody can customize their experience for you. That's the point.
Right. So, on YouTube, I mean, I was reading, going through the comments, and Kevin says that perhaps people should be able to declare their own terms and conditions with the websites that the websites would have to honor. And I think that kind of bleeds into the fact that if that's not possible, perhaps I think it's logical for the consumers to ask the companies that they are using or giving their data to prove the fact that their data is safe and not being used for anything else. Do you think that is something that could be used as an approach?
Again, you have to trust them that they would continue
Be
to
honest
follow
with you.
through on. Yes, that's right. Look, I mean, uh, I am sold on the point is like, you do not trust, but you say you control it, and if you want my data, tell me for what purpose, and let's make it for that specific purpose, and they don't have control over it later or access to it later.
Right. Sarika, I would love to know what you have to think about all of this.
Maybe a little out of context, but say when the systems were not there, right? We were interacting person to person, and still your favorite bakery, the baker would know what is your choice. So you're trusting the baker that he will not divulge it to anybody else, whatever personal talk you do with him, right? So given any kind of security, I still feel that personal discretion can never be replaced. So even despite if you get the most secure system and personally you are just giving away any kind of security questions or the password to it, then what is the use of having such a security?
Hmm. Hmm. Right. So since we have talking about this, I think it's time to take this discussion towards a more developer-centric direction. So Souvik, since you are an up-and-coming developer, I'd like to start by you and ask you these questions. You have been involved in creating some apps that have been, focused towards privacy, like the application that you developed that delivers messages using Morse code, which you can only convert and see at your own leisure, right? Uh, Considering the fact that you've worked in all of this and you've made all of this a reality, uh, do you think developers should really care about privacy when they're developing applications and new products?
Yeah, absolutely. Developers should keep privacy in their mind as the like I developed that application of Morse code, like keeping in mind the privacy as the core. So that like privacy, I would like to say privacy is always based on trust. So if that trust doesn't develop, it cannot happen. Like the big firms, like they are storing our data, but why aren't we trusting them? Like because they have our data. That's the problem. Like if the firm doesn't have even our data, like the Signal and Telegram, that type of apps are doing, like they aren't like storing the data on their database, so the people have their data with themselves. And that is the thing ad protocol is also doing. Like the people have their data on their device, and only the data that they want to share is getting like sent to other people. So I believe, like as a developer, keeping privacy in mind uh, is a really good thing. Like from the starting of a production application, keeping a privacy-centric system is really awesome.
Right, right. Sarika, you have worked on a lot of major projects in the past, right? And I mean, of course, privacy would be a concern when you've been working on these projects. So I would like to know from you, from a developer's perspective, what effect does conforming to norms like GDPR, CCPA, and the Indian Information Act, and all of these things, what kind of effect do they have on developers' approaches towards building actual products?
The norms do provide some kind of security, I would say, but norms are very like single tracked, I would say, and there can always be like a work around them. So ensuring that the security is at the system level should be like the system provider's responsibility more than any other norm or rules.
Right. So are they fully trustable? Can we rely on them completely?
Okay, it comes back to the same basic thing like today, like you have a database, it will have say firewalls and say authentication and all to access that data, but still we have hackers who can hack into those firewalls and actually take away the or misuse the data. So what these norms will only help us that we have ensured we have put up a firewall or any kind of protection, but at the end of the day if the system is not foolproof, anybody can actually violate the privacy thing or steal the data.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. It is kind of unfair to expect developers of apps. Look, their focus should be on building the business logic for the purpose that they are building the application for. Yes, privacy is important, but a lot of them perhaps do not have the capability or spend the additional 30% effort in terms of doing the authentication and the right database access, etc. And which is why we have to reimagine ourselves. And to Sarika's point, systems should provide the controls here, and that is again a plugin for the ad protocol based approach, where if you're building on top of the ad protocol, you can trust privacy and everything is taken care of because the user controls everything, and you can just focus on your own application and just go forward. And to the earlier point about productivity savings and reduction on effort by our esteemed speaker at the start, at least the ad company estimates a developer can save at least 30% of effort, not having to worry about the repeated authentication and database access, etc., and just focus on the application logic, knowing fully well privacy and everything is going to be baked and built into the application.
Right, right. So, since we are into, uh, I mean, this meetup, this event has been focused on Flutter a lot. So let's bring
Mhm.
Flutter into the picture as well, and say, let me ask you guys this: is Flutter the one of the, well, if not the ideal, but one of the ideal frameworks for optimum app security?
Well, I will leave it to the Flutter experts to say that, but I can say the ad company and the Flutter is like a match made in heaven. As I said, the backend is built on Dart, and all the applications right now are very Flutter centric. And the ad company has made a judgment call that indeed it is a right framework going forward. in promoting this privacy and trust, etc. But I will leave it to the Flutter experts to comment on this.
Well, Flutter
Yeah,
experts.
yeah, definitely. Flutter is really a good platform for like a very secure application. Like Flutter gives access to the native side of things directly, so that like you do not have any kind of bridge like that used by other frameworks. So you have directly access to the native side of things. So like for the local security, like local storage, there is already a plugin, a lot of plugins, I would say, that like locally secure your data using the native channels. In Flutter, there is native platform channels that you can use to directly access the native side of things, Android and iOS, and also on desktop web. So I think Flutter is really a good platform to work on privacy. And Ad protocol, like I have worked on it, and it is purely very Dart. So it's amazing to like integrate it with Flutter, and it's so easy to work on. Like it integrates so well with Flutter, I would say.
Sarika, thoughts?
I think Flutter as a platform is good to work with beautiful UI and ease of development. But frankly, like anything that you use tools to create an app, at the end of it, it will be built into a binary. So I wouldn't say that this one particular language is secure, the other one is not. Because at the end of the day, it is the system architecture which makes it secure. And almost all modern frameworks provide all kinds of tools to ensure that.
Right, right. Jagan, I think you would second that motion.
Absolutely. So, like the way you get garbage collection and all that stuff out of a programming language, like Dart gives you so many things for free, right? So you code in, first of all, you're coding in a high level object oriented programming language. You simply say, you extend something, you get all that inheritance, all that stuff for free. Similarly, you the protocol, so that's what a language gives, what a framework gives, all that stuff. And be underneath that, we have this protocol which gives so many other things which a language doesn't give for free, like authentication, authorizations, encryption, all that stuff. So basically, it's the Flutter with the combination with something really secure. In this case, a protocol. That's what actually makes it secure. So I would recommend a Flutter and Dart for a language because it's easy to learn. It's so close to some of the language that you would have learned previously. It's close to Java, for example. You get, as a language, it's a sound thing. They have gotten rid of many unnecessary keywords and stuff like that. It's simple to learn, but then a combination of that with the protocol, actually, what enables you to develop secure apps.
Right, right. Souvik, you mentioned that you've come across tools and things and that you can use in Flutter to, enhance the privacy and security. Would you like to elaborate on those?
Yeah, so like I said, like on the for the local storage and stuff, there are like plugins for that already available, and one of them is Flutter Secure Store. So it gives access to the local native storage and encrypts the data. It takes care all of the encryption technologies of that, and like the Flutter has all uh, has a biometric also, a native channel to access biometric. And I think the ad protocol is like on top of that. Like it's giving all of the stuff like the authentication and all of the things are already baked into that ad protocol. So you don't have to take care of anything using the Flutter UI. Like you can already only focus on the business model, and all the complex stuffs are already handled by the ad protocol.
Okay. Right. So, I think we have probably talked about a lot of different aspects and looked at this issue from a lot of different perspectives. I think the only thing left to talk about is the future. So, I'd like to put this final question to all of our panelists here. Um, what are your vision? What do your visions look like for privacy, let's say 5 to 10 years from now, for the future generations, of course? What do you think is the future for information security? Well, Venkat?
Sure. As I said, I do believe in open systems, no wall gardens. People should be able to leverage something wonderful like the internet and have fantastic experiences without having to give up their privacy, without their data being abused, and also empower them, to Jagan's earlier point, the ability to monetize. So, for example, if I want to monetize my own data, perhaps I am there saying, "Hey, these are my interests. Whether my color is blue or I'm looking for a new car." Let companies come and bid for my needs, and I am willing to share minimal information for the transaction to happen. And so all such wonderful things done without me having to put data elsewhere and then worry about protection and etc. I want to keep my own data and have wonderful experiences.
Amazing. Jagan, your thoughts?
Yeah, future is certainly bright. There's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of innovation that's happening in this space, and you would experience it once you actually come and write a hello world with us. You would see that it's easy. So whatever Souvik was saying before, just try to redo the to do app by the speaker that we have on the call today using Ed protocol. Give it a try and give us your feedback.
Sarika, how do you envision data privacy in the future?
I agree with them both. I feel whatever it is, it'll be positive and like a little bit adaptable behavior would just make it the norm.
Okay. Souvik, icing on the cake?
Yeah, I totally agree with Venkat and Jagannath with this. And like the future is very bright for like with the introduction of the ad protocol. And uh, this is it, like it is giving all the steps like authentication, all the data storage, all those steps are already handled by it. So you do not have to worry about all the steps while building an application and only focus on the UI part and on your business model. That's all I have to say.
Okay, well, in conclusion, I think since mother is the need of all invention, and now that we have felt the need to secure ourselves on the internet, I think it is we are bound to come up with new ways to preserve our data, and of course, share as much or as little as we want with the people who we want to share it or we don't want to share it with. And I think the at company has already taken the first successful step towards that new future. And personally, to the ad company, I would like to wish all the best in all of their future ventures. And I hope this sparks that much needed uh, revolution that we are looking for our future generations as well. I think this discussion has been very fruitful, and to all the viewers, I hope you've had new perspective towards looking at privacy. And if you hadn't been concerned about how much data there is about on the internet about you and how secure or private you are on the internet, I think this would be a good starting point for all of you to start thinking in that direction, and probably take important steps to protect yourselves and be safe at all times while having all the amazing experiences that the internet has to offer. I think that sums it up. Also, to the panelists,